call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start tonight, I'd like to have a moment of silence for all the wicked weather that's going on in this country, in the Midwest, Southeast, and now the Northeast. I think there's been a total of 38 deaths, unfortunately. A lot of property damage and a lot of people's lives who were turned upside down. So if we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Will the clerk call the roll?
Mayor Primoroso.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jablin. Councilmember Russo. Councilmember Tinsley.
Here.
Councilmember Levy.
We have no additions, deletions, modifications tonight. So first up on the agenda is announcements, presentations, the 2013 annual audit report. Alan?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Alan Owens. We're pleased to be here tonight to present to you the fiscal year 2013 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. A copy of this report has previously been sent to council with the agenda items electronically. A copy has also been posted electronically on the city's website for the public viewing. Included in the report is the report of the independent certified public accounting firm that performed the audit. And I'm pleased to present to you tonight Ms. Deborah Diaz, principal with the firm of Rampel and Rampel, to present the results of that audit report. So with that, I'd like to introduce Debbie.
Thank you, Alan. Good evening. My presentation this evening is going to be somewhat brief. I want to focus on the reports that we issued in connection with the audit, and then I want to deal with some of the issues that were discussed in the governance letter that you received along with the audit report. So, as mentioned previously, there are three reports within the audit, the CAFR itself. The first is our opinion on the financial statements. We've issued an unmodified opinion this year, which essentially means that information provided to us by management was accurate in all material respects. The second report that we've issued is the report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance. Generally in that report, if we've identified any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, that's where they would be reported. But we're pleased to announce that there were no such findings. With respect to compliance, we take a look at various areas within the city, whether it's compliance with your investment policy, compliance with your purchasing policies. We have a general overall review, and nothing came to our attention during that process either that indicated that you were not in compliance with any laws, grants, etc. The last letter that we've issued is the management letter in accordance with the rules of the Auditor General of the state of Florida. They require that we also do certain other tasks, procedures, and report back to the state, but there were no areas within which we were testing that resulted in any information that should be reported back to the Auditor General. So essentially it was a clean letter. There was a governance letter that was attached to your report when you received it. There are some things there that I would like to bring up. We've already discussed the reports, and these are things that our standards require us to communicate to the governing bodies, so that's why we go through this exercise. The first thing that we communicate has to do with generally accepted accounting principles. We are here to tell you that there were two new accounting standards that were implemented this year at the mandate of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. It is, I guess, somewhat of a clarification. It did not have much of an impact on your financial statements. We did restate the prior year net assets by $153,000. And again, under the new standards, that $153,000 related to costs of issuance that you had incurred over time as you were issuing debt, and it was capitalized and was being amortized over the life of the bonds. That is no longer the standard, so the entry was made and it was a prior period adjustment. The second change that we made had to do with deferred amounts on refunding. you've had a series of bond issues over the years. You've refunded them for one reason or another, and there was an accumulated amount that had been recorded net of the debt on the financial statements. But the new guidance now is that that amount be pulled out and reported separately, and it is on your statement of net assets, and it's called the deferred amount on refunding. It's pretty clearly said. So again, no real change. It's really basically from here on out a presentation issue. We're also here to talk about accounting estimates. There are several in your financial statements, and we go over these every year. I bring them up because there are some that are fairly material. The first is the estimate of your actuarial accrued liability with respect to your pension plans. Again, in the notes to the financial statements on page 60, you'll see a lot of information, historical information as well, with respect to contributions, actuarial valuation of assets, what your pension liability is, and then what your unfunded pension liability is. So again, those are all based on work that is performed by actuaries, and we do rely on their work when we report in the financial statements. The second estimate has to do with other post-employment benefits. Again, this is the implicit liability because you offer health insurance benefits to employees once they retire and before they are on Medicare. So this has been something that has come up over the last couple of years. We do have some word that that number is going to increase substantially based on the Affordable Health Care Act, but that will yet to be seen in your next audit. I think the only other major estimate that we're talking about here is the depreciation on property, plant, and equipment, and that depreciation expense, $6.2 million, is reported in the financial statements. But again, management's very conservative with respect to the useful lives and the depreciation methods that are being used. So we had no difficulties in performing our audit. We were delayed a little bit, but we are here today. Usually we come to your March meeting, but we were waiting for some reports that we had to incorporate into our final report before we could get here today. There were no adjusting journal entries. Again, an indication of the quality of work that's being done by your staff. We made no changes to the financial numbers that were given to us. We had no disagreements with management. Management signed a rep letter for us dated April 18th. And other than that, I think that's all I have to say. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them at this time.
Do we have any questions for Debbie? Just for clarification purposes, when you talk about depreciation, we're accelerating it quicker before the useful life of the asset is over. So we're taking a more conservative approach by doing that.
Very conservative,
Okay.
yes, straight line.
And then also, do you want to talk at all about any differences that's going to be done on the financial statement preparation for next year? Any radical changes or changes in the gap that you see that's coming forward?
Well, there are definitely two new standards coming down the road, GASB Statement 67 and 68, and that has to do with your pension plans and your liabilities and ultimately the recording of an unfunded liability. So I know that Alan is working directly with your actuaries now and coordinating his efforts with police and fire pension boards. And that's a good thing because, you know, we're waiting for the actuaries. It's good to know ahead of time and to be able to plan and to properly implement these standards as they come down. So 67 this year, 68 next year.
And it's going to be pretty much across the board. Everybody's going to be doing this, so we're all going to be on the same playing field when this comes out.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you will.
Great, thank you. Nice report. Anybody else? No? Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate
much.
your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan, you and your staff again as well. It's nice to have no management responses. That's fantastic. So thank you for all your work, your team, staff, everybody. Sure makes it a lot easier to be up here when we get those type of reports and trustworthiness in the numbers and now the actuarial studies as well from the pensions. So we're in great shape. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Okay. Mike, I'll get to you in a minute. We have some items of resident interest, but I'll certainly introduce you, so thank you for being here tonight. Items of resident interest and board committee reports. David, do you want to start?
I'd be happy to. Yesterday, we all had the pleasure of attending the State of the City address given by our own Mayor Bert Permoroso. And I also learned something very important at the State of the City address: never call him Robert. One of the things, though, that as I was listening to the State of the City address, it sounded wonderful. And then I started thinking about the state of the city, and the fact of the matter is, we are very blessed to live in this city. This is a very well-managed city, and I've been trying to think, how did we get to where we are today? And I've got to say, it's the staff that has done such a wonderful job. Years and years of winning a Distinguished Budget Award. One year where we won the highest budget award, the only accredited fire department in the county, the accredited police department, an incredible recreation program, planning ahead. And, I was thinking, how did we get there? And one of the things I think, because it all comes back down to dollars, is that the City of Palm Beach Gardens spends your dollars the way they're supposed to be spent. When we have an impact fee, we pay for expansion, not for operating costs with impact fees. That's something that's pretty important. Something that's gotten a lot of cities in trouble that I know of, and we can't do this because we have a separate utility, is they'll take utility funds and put them into the general revenue, and then there's no funding to replace piping and things like that. Here in the city, the monies are segregated properly and appropriately. Gas tax money is spent on building roads. Impact fee money for police is built on, it went to the EOCC. I think that that's very important. I think that our staff, as I looked at the state of the city, needs to be really commended for doing the right thing, not taking the easy way out, but doing the right thing. And we just went through, and the mayor pointed this out, the worst recession that we've ever had since the Great Depression. And yet, in this city, we didn't raise our millage rate. We didn't put the burden on the backs of our taxpayers. And we were still able, I think this is amazing, and this wasn't in the State of the City because it's kind of old news, we're still able to bring in new business, new companies to come and relocate here. And I think that's just a phenomenal thing. And I have to admit, I've taken living here for granted because I've gotten used to it. Fortunately, I have to leave town for my work a lot. And I see how other cities are managed and how other cities are run. And it's funny, I really can unequivocally say, and I've been in every one of 67 counties in the state of Florida and most of the 414 cities, this is the best city in the state of Florida to live in. I don't think that's an accident. And, again, I see the people over here, and I just really want to thank you. And especially you make us look really good. So, but it's really your efforts ever since I've been on this council that has made this the premier city in the state of Florida. So, I'll pass now.
Okay, I don't have to say anything else. Thanks.
That's it.
Marcy?
First, I want to say that I can't agree with you more, David. You're absolutely right. And that was a great presentation. I wish that, and maybe what we can do is do that presentation or a brief version of that presentation here so people can have the opportunity to see all of the good things, because a lot of times we do the business here at the meetings, but we don't necessarily toot anybody else's horn for that matter. And I think that that's something that we should definitely recognize that we have done. And staff, absolutely, 100% in agreement with what you're saying. As far as the rest of the stuff on my list, now I can cross that one off. Thank you, David. This month, I attended the Avenir workshops as a spectator, not a participant. The 7th annual GATA Private Property Rights Luncheon and Debate, that was another thing that we had participated in. I also attended, and I think, Bert, you did too, even though there were 600 people in the room, so it was quite hard to see, but I attended the Tequesta Mayor Brennan's All Aboard Florida workshop in Jupiter. And there were, like I said, 600 people at this event, and it was a great presentation. Kim Delaney did a presentation. We had a presentation regarding the boat traffic from George Gentile, which was quite interesting. In addition, on the same subject, this month I also, as every month, I attended the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council meeting where, similar to what you just said, we had a presentation from the Assistant Director of the Florida Transportation Commission on fuel tax. And he was explaining that the state has not changed their fuel tax since 1983. And in addition, the tax, which we all know, pays for maintenance, it pays for the state roadways and maintenance of that, along with a few other things, bridges, for example. And the state has had a significant drop in funding due to the fact that there was a significant decrease in consumption of fuel, and also gas, I should say, and also because of electric cars and the mandates that we've put on ourselves, which is a great one, to be more efficient when it comes to that. Yeah, and they were saying that the electric cars, they actually do wear and tear on the roads, but yet they're not paying for the fuel tax, so somewhat of a conundrum. So it was an interesting conversation, but that's one of the things we spoke about. In addition, in great detail, we spoke about All Aboard Florida. In that context, we voted to request the FRA to allow additional time to receive public comments, 90 days additional time. And once, as we know, the FRA will soon be completing the environmental impact statement. Once completed, they'll be hosting 4 meetings to obtain comments from the public, which is everybody's opportunity to state what they feel about that project. I would love to see one of those public meetings in our city. I think that that's something that we should request because I think it's beneficial, because there are so many people in the North End that would love to have that meeting and would love to have the opportunity to comment, especially to the FRA in regards to that. I think that's important. Again, on this topic, last night, I attended another All Aboard Florida meeting in my neighborhood, Evergreen, where Kim Delaney actually spoke to not just Evergreen, but Evergreen and the Isles, and we invited other neighborhoods, surrounding neighborhoods, and there was over 100 people there. So it was amazing. We thought there was going to be like 40 people attending because we could never get anybody to attend an HOA meeting. But they did. They came out in numbers, and the room was packed, so it had to have been well over 100 people that was there. And again, we understand their concerns, rightfully so. On an aside, I think we should request, like I had mentioned, the meeting be here, but also Treasure Coast now updated their website, and they've included an entire section on the website just about All Aboard Florida. Every communication, every letter from every jurisdiction, tons and tons of information. I would love to see maybe our website have a link or provide a link to that link, if that's possible, so that everyone can just click and go right to that section if they're interested in All Aboard Florida, because a lot of people really are concerned. Another thing that I attended this month was the Recreation Advisory Board meeting. Once again, it was a very productive meeting in regards to planning improvements to Mirasol Park. I'm sure the master plan project will soon be at our city council. It's a very exciting project. Mother's Day, which I think is the 16th, is when the Green Market will be at the store for the first day. 11th, sorry. 11th, got the 16th on the brain. Never the 16th, 11th. Very good. See, and I'm a mom, I don't even know that. That's because every day should be Mother's Day. We also discussed the possibility of closing fields on Election Day. That was something that one of the board members brought up, which was interesting. And the reason that they said that was because a lot of families, or she had noted, I guess because her son plays soccer, that a lot of moms there were rushing to get home, parents, not just moms, parents were rushing to get home, rushing to get the kids, and then rushing to the fields, and were telling her that I didn't have a chance to vote. And that was a comment that I haven't heard before, but a very good comment and something to consider in the future. We discussed the tennis center expansion, which will go out to bid soon. That was another interesting thing, and I'm glad to see that come to fruition. The mayor and I attended the Frenchman's Creek Charitable Foundation Tea, where they gave thousands of dollars to 20 local charities, along with our fire, police, and recreation department. And, I want to say I'm truly grateful to them. In addition, as we read in the paper, Ballin Isles did the same thing, which I have to thank all of these communities and all the people that do these things like the Honda, because this is something that truly gives back to our community, and these communities have given back in such a great way. It really makes Palm Beach Gardens have that small town charm, and again, I'm truly grateful and thankful for that. I attended the Food and Wine event at Legacy. I think Eric did too. That was to benefit the Police Explorers, which was a really, really fabulous event. It was very, very well received, very well attended, and whoever put that together did a really excellent job. It was very well organized. Finally, I met this month with our school board member, Mike Murgio, right there. Welcome. The provost of Palm Beach State College, the business development board, in regards to an idea that I have. And I would like to discuss this with you either now, or I can discuss it with you under items for council discussion, which, by the way, is at the end of the agenda. So I just want to put that out there. It's an initiative that I would like to bring up with you guys. Okay?
Okay, Joe?
Well, I knew this was going to happen. Once we went live, I said the reports are going to get longer and they'll get more political.
Has my report gotten longer?
It seems like
It's
it.
the
It's a
same
whole
thing.
page
Every
now.
day
It was-
it's like
I don't
that.
know.
I mean, every month.
You went to more things so you could report. You know this. I'd like to thank Steve Tarr, though. He's not here this evening, but I know he's going to be watching. And so, you know, as we all know, we're going video now, and I'd like to say it's because of him. Unlike what I've read in the paper so many times about how we've resisted to do this, I will tell you that in my memory, that's the only time it was ever asked to be done. And when we did hear it, the council did take positive action and say it was something that we should be looking at. And of course, us doing things like we normally do, it maybe took a little bit longer than some people would like, but we wanted to try and do it the right way. And we're not done yet. This is the beginning, and we don't know where we're going to end up, and it's going to have a lot to do with how many residents want it and how many residents watch it. But I will tell you that any elected official will tell you that the more you can do to communicate with the public is the better. I know everybody talks about how government wants to be less transparent, and you're not that's the key word. If Groucho Marx was here, that when transparency would come down, that bird would come down, or whatever that was, because transparency is the key word. But I will tell you that anything we can do, okay, to keep the residents involved and knowing what's going on, it betters all of us. It betters the city, it betters our ability to govern. Unfortunately, too many times issues come up and they really don't know anything about. And it's very, very difficult. So this, I think, is a good beginning process, and we're going to see where it's going to go. But Steve, if you're watching, thank you. You did this, and you should be getting the credit for it. And the most important thing to me is you weren't even political about it. You did it because you believed it was the right thing to do, and you really didn't try and get any political capital. I respect that, and you did a great job with it. Thank you. The other thing I'd like to bring up is, you know, I was reading the paper the other day, and I was talking about how bad, you know, our pension report was in 2011, you know, how bad our pensions were. As we all know, we've since done a lot of different things to make our pensions better. I'd like to see us as soon as we can with the actuarial. I know we're always getting studies and seeing where we're at. I'd like to see a press release to tell everybody where we're at with it, so that maybe the next time the Post does an article in general, I'm not criticizing the newspaper, because they're talking about a factual report from 2011. But I'd like to talk about a factual report in 2014 that means a lot more than what it is in 2011. And as we all know, our pensions are in a lot better condition. And in fact, when we just redid our police contract, we had our police contribute to reducing our shortage. And I think that's positive, and those numbers are nowhere near what they say they are. And we all know that we're not 100% funded, but I'm sure that cities in Illinois would love to have the reserve we have to deal with their pensions that we have now. So, and you just heard the report from our auditor, And talking about how now the unfunded liabilities, the pensions have to be shown. It's going to be interesting to see how some of these other states, what their audit reports are going to look like. Be ready for a lot of, if you invest in municipal bonds, be ready for downgrades and reducing values of the bonds. One other quick thing, I talked about it last time. I didn't have a solution. I thought about it again, talked about charter review. My idea, and I spoke to the city manager, and no one has come up with anything else that he's aware of. But my approach to it is, again, is a 5-member board, okay, hire an outside consultant so that no one here is involved, and go from there. So whenever anybody else wants to talk about it, this is going to be the last time I'm going to bring it up. I'm interested in hearing anybody else's, and I know no one's here tonight prepared, so I'm not asking you to talk about it tonight, but whenever you'd like. I don't have any other better ideas. I've thought about it, and that's basically all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
Well, you've covered everything. I can't got much left because I had a long list, and there you go. It's all done. That's what I would
give you that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
welcome.
Yeah, I think, the Buckley tournament. Most of us, except David, I know, David, you were away, but the four of us, yeah, you were. The four of us played in a wonderful golf tournament that is an annual every year. Give a Smile to a Child Foundation runs this golf tournament, and they make a great deal of money, most of the money that they use it to give away over the year in that tournament. And it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. They raised, I hope, a lot of money, and they do wonderful work. So it was a lot of fun, and we all played. And Bert came in second, and so did you, Joe.
He's the mayor. That's
mayor?
why,
And I didn't come in last, finally.
So it was a good day.
How many mulligans did you buy? That was the key.
Well, congratulations to you both for coming in second. I know you wanted to come in first, but next year, bring another ringer. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm still keeping Joe, though. Joe, I'm keeping you.
Oh, I thought it was touch and go.
Anyway, there are a lot of things that you mentioned. The Green Market is moving indoors on the 11th. This next week is the last outdoor Green Market. It's been a huge success this year. Probably broken all the records from all the years we've done it, and it's a credit really to the staff. The Recreation Department, the Parks and Recreation Department have done such a wonderful job with that Green Market, and everyone loves it. It's become our signature piece every Sunday, and we're lucky enough to be able to go indoors this year. I think it'll be even more successful this year indoors than it was last year, because a lot of those vendors wanted to come in this year, and that shows me that they're interested in. Mr. Bread's coming in, Joe. Yeah. That's good. You mentioned All Aboard Florida. There's an awful lot of people concerned about it. It's been in the newspaper almost every day. I know that Mayor Brennan from DeQuesta has been on the forefront of this. She's very concerned about it. We all are. I know Frenchman's Creek and Admiral's Cove is very concerned about it. They've had some meetings, and I gotta tell you, it's all about the freight. I said this last month, and some people maybe didn't understand what I was trying to say, but I believe that the passenger traffic is just a tease when it comes to this whole thing. I believe that that the freight is where they're going to make their money, and if we don't curtail the amount of freight traffic on that roadway, it's going to come back to haunt us all.
Eric, I have to say, well, the first time I heard about All Aboard Florida, I said, the numbers can't work. I mean, how could it work? And everybody told me, well, they were going to develop the real estate around the station. I said, but there's only going to be 3 stations. And when you said it last meeting, it went off. That's the deal. They're going to get the federal government, okay, to guarantee a loan that's going to allow them to make the money on the freight business. That's unbelievable. I mean, and you're right on 100%.
Everybody's now been writing about it. It's funny, I wrote a letter to there was an editorial in the paper a couple of weeks ago, and basically the editorial staff said, well, why are you so afraid of this? Maybe we ought to give it a chance, and we shouldn't kill it right away. And I wrote The next day, I wrote an editorial, and a letter to the editor, never sent it in. And 3 days later, I found the same argument in Cherubino's column. It's all about the freight. And everyone's picking up on it now. It's not just that, it's the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal they're building another channel, and that channel's going to keep, these Panamex ships are going to be able, they're like 5 times the size of the regular container ship. It's all coming into Miami.
And if you look at the history of the tracks of the train, which is a long, long history, you'll learn, or maybe you already know, that there was 2 tracks
There were
on the...
5 tracks.
There was a lot, but I mean, as far as 2 tracks, one for freight, one for passenger, and they ripped the passenger rail out because it was not successful.
So my prediction is, if this happens, we're going to get a lot more freight, and who knows how much passenger traffic we're going to get. I'm not that concerned about the passenger traffic, to be quite honest with you, because I don't know that's going to be that successful. I am concerned about the freight.
Well, I'm concerned about all of it, including the high speed.
Oh, the high speed.
Because, I mean, just look what happened in, I think it was
Virginia.
Daytona, where, just recently, where somebody was listening with his earbuds in, walked on the train track, and look what happened. Got hit because he had his earbuds in and didn't hear. But when you're going 75 to 110 miles an hour, I mean, that's instant, and you don't even have a chance to respond, even if you do hear something.
Anyway,
so
I
you
hope...
have to be careful.
I hope we do have those meetings here. I don't want to volunteer our city hall, but I think that this is a great venue for it, and I'd love to see that happen, so that more of our residents will get more information and understand it before it happens overnight, and we just find it's happening.
I have a feeling if the meeting were to be in the Gardens, this venue is not large enough for
Well, you see what happened in Jupiter.
that type of a thing. It was huge. There were 600 people, and I don't think our chambers here can hold more than 300. I don't know. But nonetheless, somewhere in the Gardens,
The
whether
high
it be the
school somewhere.
whether it be the auditorium of the State College, or whether it be in another venue, but somewhere in the Gardens, so the North County residents has an opportunity to respond.
Eric, what do you think, if they ever do the inland port, what do you think the effect of the inland port would be? Wouldn't that take some of the freight away from the, put on the CSX tracks? And was that something maybe we should start pushing, is the inland
That's
port?
actually what the Treasure Coast is
That's
pushing
what
to
Treasure
do.
Coast is talking about,
Okay.
yeah.
But it's owned by separate entities.
Yes,
so
yes,
that's
It's
fine.
two different
would be-
companies.
And that's why they're saying that they're trying to get as many people, all of us, everybody, to write your local legislation to ask for that, because it has to come from
The inland
above.
port would also supply some needed jobs in that vicinity, in the Glades area, and, it would also be able to hook the Port of Tampa in, which is the 8th largest port, believe it or not, in the country. Port of Tampa actually has 8 different ports all spread out throughout the city, and that might relieve some of that freight demand. To me, it seems like all Florida East Coast transports now is rock, and you'd think they'd run out of rock eventually.
Yeah. Well, that is something needs to be negotiated in in this whole deal. Anyway, that's all I got. But Bert, you did a great job on the state of the city. You really did, and I know that Jamie worked with you, and I just wanted to give her a shout out, because she did a great job working with you. The two of you did a wonderful job.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's-
Okay, so we're all kind of in agreement. We want to try to host one of those meetings. And if, I guess we can put a link to the Treasure Coast on our website. Let's try to do that for informational purpose, to keep everybody informed of what's going on.
Not just the Treasure Coast website, but to that Treasure Coast All Aboard Florida section.
But whatever we can figure out,
Perfect.
okay?
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you. I just want to give credit again to Ballin Isles and Frenchman's Creek for their charitable foundations, for the monies they've raised over the past couple months and gave out last week. It was close to $500,000 between the two communities, and that's pretty impressive, to about 60 to 70 different organizations or charities. So I know Ballin Isles is new in the last 2 to 3 years. Frenchman's been doing it for about 15, but we're grateful to have both those communities in our city and get the recognition they deserve for the monies they raise and give out throughout the county, not just in our city, but all over. So thank you. State of the City address, Jamie, thank you again for basically being my speechwriter and putting it together. I really enjoy working with you on that, and it certainly makes us look good when we put those presentations on. Mike, I'm glad you're here. Got 2 school announcements I think you'll be proud of. One, Palm Beach Gardens Elementary announced the school's adding a hydroponic garden to their campus as part of their new magnet program this fall. The Palm Beach County School District does have several programs at the middle school and high school level, but Palm Beach Gardens Elementary will offer the first choice program at an elementary school level in Palm Beach County. Very impressed that we have that here in our city. So, Mike, great work. Thank you. Duncan Middle School, congratulations to the girls' middle school basketball team. They were undefeated and won the county championship. So, again, very proud of our middle school as well. Marcy had mentioned Avenir, and I want to just talk about that. They are going to do the presentation of their findings on Monday from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Doubletree, and I encourage as many people as possible to attend or hear their findings from the 2 previous workshops. This is their gig. You want transparency, you want to know what's going on or what they're proposing, you need to go to these meetings and voice your opinion and listen to what's going on. They're putting them on, it has nothing to do with us, but people want to be informed. Here's the opportunity to inform and speak your voice, so please make sure you attend and hear what they're trying to say. Historical Society's meeting is next Wednesday. Harvey Oyer, the attorney, is going to be speaking. He has a lot of history here, I think, in the county, written books and all kinds of stuff, so he'll be speaking. And oh, for the county? Okay.
He's also written a couple of books, and the funny thing about him is he's actually related to the Pierces of Fort Pierce and the Barefoot Mailman.
Oh, I know he's got a lot of farming history, a lot of history here in the county in South Florida, so it should be interesting to hear him speak next week. And then on Saturday, June 21st, the Historical Society is going back to the dogs. They're going to the Palm Beach Kennel Club. It's a luncheon typically to celebrate the 55th anniversary of the city. Bless you. And I had gone a couple times in the past. It's a great time. They have lunch, watch the dogs, and they actually name a race after the city, and we go out there and pet the winning dog and take pictures. So it's a good time, Saturday, June 21st, luncheon and then a race. So kind of mark that on your calendar, if you will. I think that's all I have.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Which you're talking about schools, and I don't know if any of you were aware, last month when we had our city council meeting, and Palm Beach Gardens High School chorus came and sang the national anthem, which I missed them already because they did such an excellent job. I just want you guys to know that was a surprise. I had no clue that they were coming in here, but when I won the election, they were so proud and they helped me out. They were volunteering, and such great kids because I volunteered to chaperone and do some stuff in their classroom. They all just came and all of them just surprised me, and that was their gift to me, which was the best gift in the world. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
There's a lot of talent.
It was a
lot of
great
talent in our
honor.
schools, so it was
Yeah.
nice to have them here. So, also, I want to recognize former State Representative Jim Watt, who's in the audience. How you doing, Jim? Good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming. Okay, we City Manager report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'd just like to let you know that recently, last month, when the 8 consultants for FDOT presented information to the council about PGA Boulevard between C-18 Canal and the Beeline Highway to the construction project to raise that section of the road. One of the issues that was somewhat concerning to all of us is the fact that they had an option to consider was to close down that road for approximately a year while they did the construction. They have gone ahead and scheduled at this time a public workshop here in the council chambers, and the public's invited to attend anytime between 5:30 and 7:30, Wednesday, May 14th. Once we confirm all of that, we'll post that on the website and post it on our bulletin board outside, but it is scheduled for Wednesday, May 14th, 5:30 to 7:30 here in the council chambers, and they'll be taking public input at that time. We certainly invite all of the members of the public and business community to come in and review the construction project and give them their opinion as to the construction schedule.
Is that it? More?
No, but is there a question?
No,
I just have
okay.
I just have a comment. Are we getting that news to the people from Calusa?
Yes.
Because they're greatly affected
Yes,
by this.
Calusa and the research
Okay.
park out there in the airport as well.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because it's important that, because they're doing the workshop, they're initiating the workshop, right? And they're still requesting that as an option. right? And they want to discuss that at the workshop or propose it at the workshop. And that's something we heard from our residents and adjacent communities that are not even in the city but are affected by it, and they don't want that. They don't want the road to be shut down, and it's important that people come out and voice their opinions.
You know, their approach was 3 months complete shutdown or 2 years, one lane, either, you know.
Well, I think they had a range.
I'm just
I think
telling
it was
you.
a scare tactic, too, because they put it out as
Well, let's see. We'll
long as
see.
possible.
We'll see what they come up with in the workshop, and then we'll voice the opinions from there, so.
The other items have pretty much been covered. You know, you've already announced that we are broadcasting live on the web. Also, I just would like to inform the council and the members of the public that your staff is in the process of preparing for hurricane season. As you know, it starts this June. We are scheduled our drill for May 28th. We're reviewing all of our procedures to make sure we have everything up to date, and we're testing all of our equipment and generators and everything to be sure that we're ready, and hopefully that will never occur. We won't have to use it, but in the event it's there, we will be ready. So we'll have that done, and we'll be set up and ready to go before June gets here. The other item is the green market, and you've all pretty much covered that, and that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Ron? Okay, let's move on to comments from the public, and now we'll welcome up Mike Mergio, our Palm Beach County School Board District Commissioner, District 1. Thank you for waiting, sir.
Thank you very much, Mayor Promoso and the rest of the council members. And I don't know whether I should bring it up because I don't want to take the thunder from Councilmember Tinsley, but we did meet last week, and she came up with an initiative that I have to tell you I think is wonderful. And before I go into that, I just want to thank...
Excuse me 1 second, Patty. He shouldn't get 3 minutes. He doesn't, he's here working for us, so he just shouldn't get the 3-minute thing.
Yeah, give them two.
To be honest. Well, she probably knows my father was known as Windy, and I think I have that gene in me, so I may need that up there. But I want to thank all of you for the support that you always give to our schools and how the school and the schools and the cities work together, and also for the general public, because we're very fortunate in Palm Beach County that our communities support our schools, and we really appreciate that. But getting back to our meeting, actually I was pleasantly surprised because one of my big issues is how do we help prepare children for the work environment, and I think that that's critical that we do that. And Councilmember Tinsley, when we got together, she said, you know, Mike, I have an idea I'd like to run by you. And it was for the city to be proactive by creating incentives for businesses to provide job shadowing for our students. And I just have to say, I think that's a wonderful idea. I did speak to the 2 high school principals, and they were excited to hear that the city and that Council Member Tinsley was going to bring this up, because that is something that we always need, is we need that involvement of the community to provide those type of activities. So that's really why I'm here to support that. And of course, as you know, I can't speak for the entire board because the board has not voted on anything like that, but as the representative...
Nor has this board yet.
Right. But as the representative from District 1 that covers from North Lake Boulevard north to the county line, and as a former high school principal, I can tell you that I believe it's a wonderful idea that is being brought forward this evening. So I want to thank Councilman Tinsley for taking that initiative. The other thing I did want to speak to, and this is based on what happened at our board meeting Wednesday last night, and that was an action by our school board for a call to action based on what's happening in Tallahassee. And I just want to give you a little insight in what's happening. And we're asking for our community to get in touch with their legislators and ask them to vote no on the proposed budget. And here's why. the state of Florida this year had a $1.5 billion excess, and that's good. The issue, though, is that we hear a lot of talk about the state government supporting education, and the sad thing that I have to bring forward is, in reality, it's really not happening. As a matter of fact, our per pupil monies that we get from the state are below what we got in 2008. So it really creates a problem for the district when we try to provide increases for our teachers and our workers. And I think most of us know, especially if we know teachers or have kids in school, that teachers are surely underpaid. I don't think any of us would disagree with that. Just to give you an idea, last year, 2012-2013 school year, Florida ranked 45th in per pupil spending. 45th. We're better than that as a community, as a state. And, you know, I happen to be very conservative, so it's, you know, I'm not one to say, oh, more money makes the difference. But when you look at what's provided in our budgets, it really makes it very difficult to do the things that we want to do. And I think most of you are aware that our community is so supportive, they've actually, 4 years ago, passed a $250,000 levy because they believe that education is important for children. So it shows that we here in Palm Beach County believe it's important. Just to give you an idea, last year, our funding per student was $9,200 a year. The United States average is $12,000 a year, and the state that spends the most is $23,000 a year. So you can see that we're at a disadvantage in trying to provide the same types of services to our children. So I would urge all of you as elected officials and anyone listening to get in touch with their legislator and say, no, we need to do better. As a matter of fact, this is the first year when the state has had a budget surplus that the budget that they're proposing now is less than both the original budget proposed by the Senate and by the House. So somehow in their conferences, they actually lowered what they originally were intending to provide for the education of our students. So I hate to bring that kind of news, but it is something that we as the school board would hope that we can get as much pressure on our legislators to do a little bit better for education. But getting back to what you're going to discuss in a little while, I just hope that the board considers what Council Member Tinsley is bringing up, because I really do believe it'll be a big plus for the children. And hopefully if you need a space, you know that Palm Beach Gardens High School is always available, and that'll seat a few more people than you can here. Thank you.
But Mike, before you leave, and I know we're going to talk about it later, but what do you envision here? I mean, from your standpoint, I mean, this shadow program, is it a week thing? Is it a day thing? Is it a...
Well, as a matter of fact, what we would do is the next step, if the council thinks it's a good idea and they want to move forward, we actually are setting up a meeting with the principals to see how they feel it would best meet the needs of the children. But usually shadowing will go on for at least 9 weeks, that they'll be at the job site for maybe an hour or two a day. But depending on the needs of the children and the situation that they're in with their classes will determine how much time.
And why would we have to pay for this? I mean, wouldn't businesses...
This is something that I wanted to bring up to discuss further and not get into
She's not going to let me
details at
talk,
this
she
point.
will not let me talk about this
So-
now, and I
I can do
respect
it
her
now
for
if you
this.
want me to.
No,
No,
that's
this sounds
okay.
like a presentation.
No, I
We want to
agree.
do this later, so
Yeah,
I
and-
just want to hear Mike's input on it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear your basic
and
thing. We'll
let-
talk about it later.
And I'll give you a little feedback, because the high school I was at, we were a career academy. All of our students were enrolled in career programs and left school with some type of state, industry, or national certification. A big part of that was internships and job shadowing. And the wonderful thing about that is it really brings students to a different level because they really see what's going on in the workplace, and it changes their whole perspective. It also gives them an opportunity to say, you know, I don't know if I really like that. An example, we had a nursing program. One of our students came back after she was in the hospital because they were there with the doctors doing cardiac catheterizations. So they go through the whole 9 yards. She came back and said, Ms. Murgio, you know, I don't know if I like the stuff with the blood, but I love when I'm working with the senior citizens. So what a great opportunity for a student to be in an environment and realize, well, I thought I liked that, but I didn't like that as much as I like this. So it really opens up the world to them and gives them an experience that helps provide a path for them.
Some guidance, right?
So
See, one quick thing, doesn't the magnet programs have the shadowing program?
1 day or two.
they do, but it's limited.
It's only 1 day or two?
Part of what we want to do is open it up to give more children that opportunity, and that was one of the things that Council Member Tinsley said, you know, she really doesn't want to limit it to that type of a situation, a magnet program, because it's the other children that need that exposure as well.
So you're proposing, it'd be like an internship, not just a 1 day or a 2 day.
Well, not an internship, because internship, you could be doing other things. We're talking about job shadowing,
Okay,
which
all right,
actually is...
We'll talk about that.
And as I said, I think that's something
I'm doing the
that...
cart before the horse, but I appreciate
We wanna hear
your
Mike's.
support.
Thank
And
you.
what I did was I bounced an idea off of him
Okay.
because he's an educator, and
Now that we're going live, as you well know, part of keeping the audience is having them...
you got to have a little...
So now they got to stay and watch because
Right.
to see what Marcy's gonna...
So wait,
See, we
where's
gotta
the
start
camera
thinking
so I
like
make
that.
sure the right
Using
side
a
is
teaser?
there?
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank
Really
you
good.
very much, I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mike.
it.
Appreciate it.
I think an example of what you're talking about is, you know, say someone's in the culinary magnet, I'm just picking it, and they're interested in being a chef, having them spend a few hours in the kitchen of one of our local restaurants to see what it's like to be a
You'll
chef.
hear my idea at the end.
Okay, let's move on, please. Thank you. Ruth Peoples?
Ruth Peoples, 184 Bent Tree Drive. Well, this will surprise you, but I'd also like to thank Councilwoman Tinsley for something. Last month, whenever the Sunset Project was passed, Councilwoman Tinsley suggested that the project be rebid, or to at least look into why the cost had tripled over a fairly short period of time. The only thing that I wondered was why no one would support her suggestion. It appeared that no one on the council was exactly sure of how the costs were derived, although the city manager did state that the project had been put out to bid by Seacoast. But since the costs are being passed on to residents, I just felt it would have been prudent to look at how those costs were derived since they had tripled. And I just want to close by saying thank you again, Councilwoman Tinsley, for looking out for the residents' pocketbooks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ruth. Do you have any comments on that, Marcy?
Well, I do want to say, we know how the dollars were derived. It was pretty much a line item type of a thing. It was what I was requesting, that we had additional bids so that we could make sure that that bid was a good, solid bid and the best price for the job. But, and I appreciate your comments, and I did ask for, while we were going through the process, for it to be done in concert with the rest of the work, and to just ask other pre-qualified bidders to give prices so that we can make sure it was the best dollar. But we do know how the cost was derived from, and we have a line item as to each cost, because it was a full detailed set of construction drawings versus a preliminary set of drawings. The first number, I believe, was from preliminary drawings, and the last number was from a full set of final construction drawings with a lot more detail. However, I had brought up the bid, and that's where the difference was.
And Ruth, the
But
other
thank you.
side of that, okay, is if we go with a separate bid, then we got to draw all the plans, all the documents, and then we got to go out with our own bid package. And then, this is going to be a small job for bidders. And the problem with that is then you're going to have to give it to the lowest bidder, which will probably be higher than what we have. Remember, the person that won the bid for the Seacoast contract bid it because they're going to get all of Seacoast's work. And that's why I didn't want to go in the direction Marcy wanted to go, and I don't think the rest of the council did, because it would wind up costing more, because this is a very, very small job, and you wouldn't be able to get, let's say, the excitement of it. No different than when we buy police cars. If we were to go out and bid police cars ourselves, we would never get the price we get off the state bid, because the company comes in and they want all the cars, so they bid it that tightly. That's why this thing was the way it was. Not to mention the time it would have taken to delay it to go out with a whole new thing. And I think Marcy was right in looking at it, okay, and the one thing I know she was concerned with, they were all concerned with, that the bid numbers weren't higher than they would normally be, but we could also compare that to other similar type contracts with the county to see if it is. And I think it was looked at, and I think it was right where it needed to be. So, there's two sides of that, so it's just...
Okay, good explanation. Mel Grossman?
Good evening, Commissioners. Mel Grossman, 161 Thornton Drive, PGA National. A lot of the thunder that I was going to talk about, you spoke about already. One was All Aboard Florida. Marcy mentioned it was over 600 some odd people in Jupiter. 2 out of the 600 said that it was a good idea, good percentage. We had another one up in Stewart last night with the REC, and they had no one that agreed with. There's more to it than just freight. It's now gambling. It's the Fortress Group, money group behind it. They've asked for another $1 billion on top of the $1.4 billion originally that we'll have to pay back, because no passenger freight train has ever made money since MacArthur, and he had his own money in it. It's a losing proposition. So not only is it going to be all aboard freight, but it'll be gambling casinos up and down the line. That's their intention. In any event, I want to thank the Commission for talking about All Aboard Florida. We're having a town hall meeting on Monday night in Abacoa. Hopefully, everybody will show. Everybody was invited. We're asking the residents to come. And one of the items we are talking about is All Aboard Florida. And if you've ever been to a meeting, a town hall meeting, where people 100% reject the subject, this should be it, because it's every meeting we've been to. Marcy, you used the term, Palm Beach Gardens, we have a small town flavor, and that's perfectly correct. We moved here because it was a small town flavor, but it seems like everything is coming down. I don't know if you commissioners have a time limit for All Aboard Florida, for Avanor, for the building that's going on, but we kind of wake up in the morning as residents and say, what's wrong today? What can we do today? We're going to lose that small town flavor. With Avanor, and I know it's in the courts and whatever, and I truly don't understand everything that's going on, but with all the building and the flyovers and the traffic, no longer will you be able to say it's still a small town flavor. So I would appreciate if everybody takes a step back, look at it again and again, because as we told the commissioners in Palm Beach County Commission, slow down, because the 7 commissioners there will change our lives with their vote for our children and grandchildren. So if I can leave you with one thing, and I appreciate it, and we'd all appreciate it, please come to our meeting Monday night. It's in the Abacoa Country Club. Starts at 5:30 for dinner and whatever. You'll find it very interesting. And please slow down. Unless you have that clock running and you have to make a decision, We love the small-town flavor of Palm Beach Gardens. Thanks very much.
Tell the rest of the thing, the public's all invited, and the regular meeting, if they don't want to go for dinner, the regular meeting starts at 7, I think?
6:30.
6:30. The regular
6:30.
meeting starts at 6:30, so,
If you
and
guys
everybody's
come for din-
invited, right?
Everybody's invited. We invited to all the residents. We sent out about 3,000 flyers, and it should be interesting, and we're asking, we have our own people who will answer the questions. We are giving everybody some bullet notes to talk about. We're going to talk about All Aboard Florida, we're going to talk about Common Core, we're going to talk about 750, or anything that somebody asks.
Okay.
And we have people that will answer your questions. Thanks again. Have a
Thank you, Mel.
great night.
Appreciate it. Douglas Grant? Hey, name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Douglas Grant, 301 Balsam Street. I'm having a problem over in the neighborhood that I live in. I live over between Hal Watkins and Palm Beach Gardens Elementary School. And I've had problems with a dog barking situation that went on for about 3 years. Not now, but this was in 2007. I don't want to get into the details, but code enforcement, they didn't really take care of it. And I understand why, because it's such an intermittent problem. But now, 6 years later, the neighborhood is really noisy. At night, on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, it's pretty tumultuous. You got house parties that are going on, like rock concerts. And like I said, the dog barking problem is just something that's not going away. And if I could step aside from the subject for a second, I went and measured a lot of the houses. I'm an electrician, so I know about codes and stuff like that. I measured a lot of the houses, the distances from the setbacks, and it seems like when they built them, they blew their own codes. You got 4 feet, 6 feet, and it's supposed to be 7. So the point I'm trying to make is that I'd like to see a little more traction from code enforcement. I've been through a lot of layers of this city trying to get some solid, movement on this subject, and it seems like it's something that just doesn't want to be dealt with.
Okay.
So that's what I wanted to say, and I appreciate your time.
Douglas, thank you for coming here tonight. We appreciate it.
All right.
We'll work on that.
I saw that the chief was making some notes. If it's after hours, the police respond, and they all have decimeters, correct? So our code says 55 decibels, correct me if I'm wrong, at the property line. So, which is basically a low whisper. So if you're getting greater noise than that, the police should be responding, and they have the equipment to make that measurement. And I believe that we have some very strict codes on that, so we need to make sure that we enforce those. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. I've had that dog barking problem too.
Douglas, thank you. Dr. Mark Marciano?
For the record, Mark Marciano, 10 Sheldrake Lane, Palm Beach Gardens. First of all, congratulations to the 3 that are back on the days. I wasn't here last month to congratulate all of you. There is another event coming up this month. It's the Palm Beach Gardens High School Golf Tournament, May 17th. David, I'm surprised you didn't mention that. It's at Abacoa, and my kids don't go to school there, but we'll be there.
Have you ever seen me play golf?
Well,
That's why I never
I know
mentioned
you're on the
it.
board as well, so you know.
I've seen him play golf.
Yeah.
That's my bad. I'm actually playing in that.
Mark,
I totally forgot.
Okay.
Bert's playing, I didn't make the cut.
forgot that one.
I didn't make the cut for this one, though.
No,
Joe,
you're
we're
on
looking
the team
for
on
a
that
fourth
one.
if you need to join somebody. But there's a couple things I wanted to bring up real quick. First is in regards to term limits. I know that's a big hot button item in the city. I know there's some talk about trying to limit council members to 2 3-year terms. I know that's not an initiative that the council is bringing up. I don't really want to get into the specifics, but I do think the council should probably consider putting in a term limit in the charter itself to make it a more reasonable timeline. One of the concerns that I have regarding term limits is that when you take the power away from the residents to elect commissioners and council members to serve on our behalf, you ultimately put the power in the hands of the city manager, city staff, and not to say that the city manager and staff in this city are not doing a good job. This isn't a global type of concern, but you also put the power in the special interests and the lobbyists. And, we as residents only have one real method of communicating with the city, and that's through the people that sit in these chairs. And if there's a 2-3-year term, I really think that that's going to limit our ability as residents to make sure that our voices are heard. Again, Ron, don't take this as me trying to attack you, because I'm not, but I'm just trying to make sure that the city responds to the petition that is being put out there by residents of the city to make sure that a term-limited amendment is thought out in the proper way, and that we don't inevitably give the power to various entities that are not necessarily controlled by the residents. The other issue I wanted to bring up, and it's an issue that I continue to bring up, is regarding field space. Boy, our fields are in bad shape. Both my boys, as most of you know, both play in the travel soccer program here in the Gardens. There's nowhere for them to play and practice. One of the boys that is thinking of joining our team has moved from Fort Myers, and we actually played them in a tournament, and it's a nice family and a nice boy. And he came to visit our practice, and he was standing on the baseball diamonds where our boys were practicing in the corner by the outfield, and Brandy, my wife, was standing next to him, and he said, "Boy, is this the way this is practicing all the time?" And she felt so embarrassed and shocked that, here we are, one of the greatest cities in all of Florida, and yet our soccer players and football players are playing in the outfields of the baseball diamonds. I don't know what's happening at City Park. It's unfortunate that we don't have the people here that were here during the baseball stadium debate. This is what we feared, that everyone would pick up and leave and not show up again. But I would love to hear an update if there's any talk about what's happening with the county space, if there's any way that the city can take that space and convert it into a much-needed park for our families and kids.
Do you have an update on that?
We actually spoke about this at our rec advisory board meeting at the last one, and you're absolutely right. Everyone is in agreement with what you're saying. I think staff is also very much aware and been working hard, because every single field that we have is so overused, and as you know, we need to give our fields rest time, and we just don't have the time to give our fields rest time. And when we do give rest time, we are just bombarded by residents, both young adults, young residents and adult residents, that are just so upset that we close the fields, which we have to do. And you're absolutely right. I'm totally in agreement with you, and I think one of the things that we would like to do is talk to the county in regard to that piece of property as far as a park, and see what they're doing as far as district park, or see what they're doing as far as if it's surplus or not. So I would love to implore your help to do that.
I'll be there with bells on. This is an issue that's not only important to me, because by the time this park is going to be built, my kids won't be needing it as much as they do now. So it's not about me, it's about the city that we all love and want to see.
But we also have been looking into what we're going to do with the fields as far as maintenance, as far as long-term, short-term. We discussed that at the last meeting, and I know staff has some proposals that they're working on, which will help with the fields, and I don't know if you want to respond to that now, or we can do that at the next meeting, but they do have some long-term and short-term goals as far as, and we obviously as a council need to talk about that as well.
And I'm sure our school board member would need to be involved, since it's right in front of the schools and the roads and what have you. So.
Well, I became aware of the percentage of non-residents we have in our program right now is pretty significant, as I understand. Am I correct? So we have 50% non-residents, in our program. We need to meet with our county commissioner,
And that's what we did.
and we need to explain to him how we're servicing his residents that we can't service because we don't have the facilities, yet they're sitting on that land and doing nothing. That's really what needs to happen here. I mean, we really need to meet with them and explain to them how many, because when you're doing that many non-residents, they need to be helping us out. And that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a county park, and they were supposed to be helping us, and that was exactly, it's supposed to be a district park, and that's why it was put there, for the non-residents, that have to be in the programs. So that's what we need to be doing. We need to be meeting with him and talking about what could be done. Or else, what we're going to wind up having to do is something we don't want to do, and that is not service to non. I mean, we, as you well know, maybe you don't know, but there was a time that we didn't allow non-residents in our programs. And it's terrible not to be neighborly. I mean, obviously, these kids, you want to be able to service them, and you want them to be able to be in the program. It would be a shame to turn them away. But that's what we might be left doing with someday, because again, we have to service the residents that pay the taxes to us, so.
Well, I don't know if there's any need to bring the residents back in some respect, if we can set up a meeting with Al.
Absolutely, and I'll be happy if
and
the
try to figure out a way to-
council, if the council would entertain the idea, I'd be happy to go meet with our district commissioner to discuss that.
Yeah, because before the momentum's already dead regarding that space, but before it dies even further and
Absolutely.
people completely, disengage themselves from it, I'd rather, thank you.
Agree. Thanks. Joan Elias?
Joan Elias, 1009 Diamond Head. I want to put in my commercial also. It's too late to get into the community newspaper for PGA. The meeting on the PGA Boulevard, possible closing for a year, and I think that's a very important thing for our community, in addition to all the other communities that do use PGA Boulevard. I would suggest contacting the POA office and asking them to contact the management companies, because they have a lot of the emails, and request an email blast for this information to be sent out. I applaud you for having this lovely meeting on a video. But if we continue to do this, and I'm sure we will, and those of us that have been sitting here these 20-plus years, really have got to do something about getting more people to come in here, because that's the only time this building or this room is warm enough to sit in. You guys have the lights. I sound like somebody that objects to things at county commission meeting that I watch on television, because I'm hooked on meetings, as you well know. But I'm hearing some great things, and I think we do have to realize that our county commissioner serves us. And we've got to, we didn't have the support of a lot of people, but we had the support of a lot of other people that weren't here about the baseball. But that property has been sitting there over 15 years, because it was acquired when we were in the old building. And when we were in that old building, if we all had leaned on one side of the building, the whole thing would have collapsed. We all know that. So that's been a long time that property has just been sitting there. And something has got to be done to help these kids. And one of the reasons some people supported this, the baseball, was it was going to benefit the children in Palm Beach Gardens. Now, those children will probably be out of college by the time something is done on that property, unless we really start pushing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Just want to let you know it's cold up here, too.
Okay, yeah. I have no other comments, cards from the public, so we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0.
Can I just say something about what's on the consent agenda?
Sure.
There's a resolution talking about our city attorney over here. He's celebrating his 5th year with us, and I think he's done a great job. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Might be the longest we ever had a city attorney, so congratulations, Max. Thanks for hanging in there, buddy. First up tonight, we have Ordinance 6, 2014. Will the clerk read the title?
Ordinance 6, 2014, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 26 Elections at Section 26-8 Initiative and Referendum by repealing subsection G and readopting same as revised. in accordance with Section 163.031 Florida statutes, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 26 selections shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
We're going to open the public hearing, and has anything changed since first reading? Nothing?
No, there's been no changes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it up for discussion or a vote.
Move ordinance 6, 2014 for second reading and adoption.
Second.
I got a motion, 3 seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next up, ordinance 7, 2014. Will clerk read the title?
Ordinance 7, 2014, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 78 Land Development at Section 78-228 Landscape Elements by repealing and readopting subsections B, 1B, and C as revised, further amending Section 78-228 Landscape Elements by deleting subsections C1 through C4 in their entirety, amending Section 78-229 Signage and Outdoor Displays by repealing subsection A2 and readopting same as revised, and by deleting subsection A3 and A4 in order to repeal deadlines for landscape and signage compliance under the North Lake Boulevard Overlay Zone, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 Land Development shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
I'm going to open the public hearing and ask for a staff presentation, please.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Dawn Sonneborn with Planning and Zoning. This is for Ordinance 7, 2014 for the North Lake Boulevard Overlay Zone. This is a city-initiated request to amend the LDRs in order to amend the compliance deadlines for landscaping and signage in the overlay zone. To give you just a little bit of background, in 1997, the city entered into an interlocal agreement with the various jurisdictions along the corridor to create a North Lake Boulevard Corridor Task Force. And then in 2002, the city amended the LDRs to include the North Lake Boulevard Overlay Zone. And then in 2011, the city amended the compliance deadlines from May 31st, 2011, which was an 8-year time frame for coming into conformance with landscaping, and then May 31st, 2013, which was a 10-year time frame for signage, and both of those went to May 31st, 2014. So the current amendment, with the approaching May 31st, 2014 deadline, we're going to recommend to remove that. And we're going to instead apply the existing overlay zone applicability standards that are already in the code. And then also refer the code to Article 6, which is the non-conformities. It's a very comprehensive part of the code that's already there that we're going to be applying. So it provides the improved consistency language for the overlay zone, and it allows conformance to occur through alterations, renovations, and redevelopment of the parcels along the corridor. And it's consistent with the nonconformity standards for the entire code. And there's some smaller parcels that right now, if they were to come into compliance, if we would require them to do that in May, say for the 15-foot landscape buffer, because of the small sizes, it would wipe out their entire frontage of parking. So right now, it just puts a big burden on the smaller parcels that can't come into compliance. So we are seeing a lot of redevelopment along the corridor where everything is coming into compliance now. We only have one parcel out of about 45 that has one sign that's not into compliance, and that's right there at Military at the Shell Station and North Lake Boulevard. And then, like I said, there's a lot of redevelopment that has already occurred along the corridor. These are all of the parcels that have already been redeveloped or developed and are in compliance. And then you'll see these parcels that have been approved that you'll be seeing slowly the redevelopment will be occurring because that is approved sites. And these are just some photographs along the way. North Lake Congress Center, the Target at North Lake Square East, that have all come into compliance. North Lake Square West, the Banyan Tree PUD, All the landscaping is in place and signage. Gordon and Donner and McDonald's. And this corner is where we took 4 of the smaller parcels that had a difficulty coming into compliance, and that whole area now is going to be redeveloped. That whole corner you'll see being transformed to the CVS. So it'll be greatly enhanced with the buffering along that corner. Of course, the architecture will be greatly improved. Same thing with the Sunoco. That whole area, you'll see much enhanced landscaping along that area. And staff is recommending approval of the
It
ordinance.
seems like that Sunoco, he's doing something every week. There's some tree, something sign, there's something going on there, so it's good to see that corner get improved in addition to the CVS corner. That's going to be fantastic when that's all said and done. Any questions to staff? No? Anybody wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it up for discussion or a vote.
Well, this is something I want to commend staff. This is really, relieves an undue burden on the businesses that are along North Lake, because coming into compliance over this would have been very expensive and very difficult, if at even all possible. And we have delayed the implementation of this ordinance a couple of times. By taking this particular action, it relieves any undue burden, and then if we go through the redevelopment phase, then they can come into compliance at that time. So it's great that you were forward-thinking on this.
Yeah, I agree, too, and it actually seems to have occurred naturally. As redevelopment occurred, the whole corridor has totally changed, so I think you've done a great job.
We've been a member of the North Lake Task Force now for 10 years. We contributed money towards it. The east side of the North Lake Boulevard was helped by a lot of that money and grants that they received. We've waited our turn over the years. None of it has come to us, but I must say, through the redevelopment and our staffs working with a lot of these parcels, we have the best track record of all 4 entities, the county, North Lake Park, and ourselves, of redeveloping. I always can tell when I'm in the gardens by the kind of landscaping that we have on North Lake Boulevard. So they're to be commended, and frankly, I'm glad we're doing this so we don't put any undue burden on any of those people that can't comply.
Good points. Okay, bring it back for a vote.
Move ordinance 7, 2014 on first reading.
Second.
Got a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next up, ordinance 9, 2014. Will the clerk read the title?
Ordinance 9, 2014, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 50 Police of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida at Article 3, Police Officers Retirement Trust Fund, by repealing subsection 50-62C and readopting same as revised, by repealing section 50-116, Normal Retirement, and readopting same as revised, and by repealing section 50-151, Eligibility to Participate, and readopting same as revised, in order to implement the terms of the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Palm Beach Gardens and the Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 50 Police shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
You can open the public hearing and ask for a staff presentation. Alan?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Again, for the record, Alan Owens, Finance Administrator. Before you tonight, Ordinance 9. Basically, what it does, it adopts certain changes that were agreed to in the recently approved collective bargaining agreement that the PBA ratified and council approved back in March of this year. Just quickly to summarize, there are only a few changes. First of all, it was agreed that the excess Chapter 185 premium tax reserve monies existing as of October 1st, 2012, would be able to be transferred to offset the city's contribution in next fiscal year, 2014-2015. That total is $538,552. Other changes that were approved go into effect July 1st, 2016. The first one of those deals with normal retirement eligibility. It was agreed that the normal retirement age would be reduced from age 59 with 10 years of service to age 55 with 10 years of service or 25 years of service regardless of age. The other change, again, effective July 1st of 2016, it allows the employees to delay entry into the Deferred Retirement Option Plan, or what's commonly referred to as a DROP program, until they accrue the maximum benefit of 75% of their average final earnings. Currently, they have to exercise that option within 25 years. And as you'll see in the next slide, at the new accrual rate of 2.75%, at 25 years, they would not have been able to attain that maximum benefit of 75%. Preliminary estimates from the actuaries indicate a total cost during the contract term of about $168,000. We still have to have a final impact statement done. We have transmitted a copy of the ordinance to the plan's attorney and administrator, and they will forward it to their actuary to do the final impact study. And hopefully we'll have that done. But we have to have it done before second reading, hopefully before the meeting in June. So again, we'll be waiting for that final report. But I do want to emphasize that the bulk of the changes remain in place that were adopted in 2012. And just to go over those again, we did reduce the multiplier from 3.5% to 2.75%. We reduced the maximum benefit from 100% of average final earnings to 75%. And we changed the definition of compensation from total earnings to base pay only. So we feel that by retaining these major items in effect, we are accomplishing our main goal of cost control, but also providing a competitive retirement program for the members of the plan. It was a little bit discussed earlier about the unfunded liabilities. Just to let everybody here in the audience know, we have made significant progress since 2011. I forget the exact number for the police pension plan, but back then it could have been around 40% or so funded. The most recent report that we have was dated October 1st, 2012. We haven't received the October 1, 2013 report, but that number in 2012 was close to 70%. So we feel real comfortable with the direction that we're going, with the changes that have been made, and the good investment performance that we've seen recently. So we feel that we're on the right direction even with these changes. And we do recommend approval of Ordinance 9, 2014.
Any questions of staff?
Yeah, Alan, how has the British pound been doing against the American dollar? Because I know you're using English money there.
That was the only kind of coins that I could find, David. So.
Any legitimate questions for staff? Anybody wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back up for discussion or a vote.
Move Ordinance 9, 2014 on first reading.
Second.
Motion, 2 seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. We have no resolutions for tonight. Items for council action discussion. Marcy, you're up.
I have something.
I have something too after Marcy.
Oh, you want to go?
Well,
No, I go.
Marcy's might be a while, and we have Mike Mergio here, so David, please go.
Okay. First off, I want to get some direction from the council. There is a meeting on May 14th for the League of Cities on trash importation to the county waste burn facility. My personal belief, based on knowledge, is that this is not going to be a big positive for the county. They're doing this to lower costs because they built the facility at a capacity that, well, they just don't have the trash to burn at full capacity. My understanding, it keeps changing, but that it would save the average payer $4 a year, and to me, becoming known as Trash Beach County instead of Palm Beach County is not worth $4 a year. And I've heard actually it might save $11 a year. And I am also concerned because we have residents that are directly affected by this facility, and to start pulling in waste from other areas, I just think it sets a bad precedence, and I also don't think that's good for our image. So I wanted to get your all's feedback on that. And then I have another quick one, too.
I'm totally in agreement with David on this one. I think that it adds additional traffic from the south all the way over here, and I feel that that's unnecessary. I agree with you. You have to talk about quality of life in our county, and what they knew that this was going to cost as much as it cost. They knew that it was going to take time to ramp up to a specific amount of trash. In the beginning, obviously, it's going to be a little bit different, but I am totally with you on this one.
So what you're saying basically is the county wants to import more trash to make money at their 45th Street facility.
Yeah, the
That's the
waste
plan.
energy plant.
I just want to get some facts on this.
What they're doing is they built it for the need they're going to have, okay, in the future. Okay, in the meantime, they're not there yet. So what they're trying to do is deciding that they're going to bring it in to offset, the cost right now because they don't need it. Now, my problem is, David, I tend to agree with you, although I don't know the other side of it, okay? And if you've explored both sides of it, and this is your opinion and so forth, I don't know enough to go against it, so I would support it. I mean, Marcy seems to be very strong. I don't know where Eric, and so as far as I'm concerned, I would go with you because you've explored it. I don't know the other side. I mean, obviously, the county has a reason for doing it. I would
It would
hope...
lower cost.
Well, I would hope that they feel that it's not going to impact any of the residents and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, is it worth it? Now, I also heard that they're not going to pay what, let's say, everybody else is
The tipping fee
paying.
will be lower.
Fees are going to be
They're
lower for
giving
the
them a
imported
lower
garbage.
rate so that they can bring it up here, and that's
So,
unfair, too.
I don't know enough about it, but if...
The people that are here paying the
Exactly.
same, a much higher fee.
Aside from that,
I don't know,
I
it's-
think
I-
For a
it's
shorter
an
distance.
environmental disaster to allow
Okay.
us to import garbage.
Yeah, especially some of
Okay,
the
David,
waste that
you
they're
know what to
talking
do now.
about, too, which is pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Wait a minute, I just want to expand on Joe's point in terms of them bringing in more trash to build up capacity to lower costs. Now, what happens if they don't get all this trash? Where do the costs go to the residents? If they're not at capacity, we're going to go up.
Well,
So
currently,
it's-
right now, because the facility has been bonded and paid for, currently on our tax bill, we have a non-ad valorem fee of $175.
Right.
The estimate that the Solid Waste Authority gave us at the last League of Cities meeting was that fee would drop to $171. So it would be $4 off of your tax bill.
If they bring in this trash and
They
build
bring
the
in this
capacity,
trash.
okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
to me, I'm willing to pay the $4. Now, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm willing to pay $4 to protect the
As long as
reputation.
I'm not going from 175 to 250 because they're not at capacity, I think I understand.
It would go down, not up.
Okay.
And also, in addition, I think you had brought up in the past about the medical waste that they were
gonna bring in
that they
medical
were
waste.
considering.
Yeah, and I would hope that they would do the proper burn studies, but, when you burn something and you don't burn it completely and thoroughly, it becomes airborne, then it becomes ingested through inhalation. You breathe it in the non-scientific terms.
Okay.
So,
we all in agreement? We all in agreement with that? On the League of Cities? Okay, that's our position. You can represent that. Thank you.
Okay. My other issue is something else that we probably want to talk about next meeting and give staff a little bit of a chance to take a look at this, but I'm wondering if we should take a position on the Minto project, because it will have an effect upon our city. They're talking about doing twice as many houses as they're currently allowed. I know that you probably got, I don't know if you were able to take a look at, but I sent you wetland delineation versus the Vavris property versus the Minto property, and they don't have any wetlands there. So basically, it means that they're allowed to build on every portion of the property. And as you know, years ago, you all authorized me to oppose the Calorie Judge plan when they were proposing 10,000 homes. And at this point, I think that we probably need to find out how this project is going to affect us. And I think maybe we should authorize staff to maybe spend a little bit of time looking into it.
Well, I'm coming from with you, but I've had a lot of conversations with former Commissioner Marcus. As you well know, all of North County have been together, and many years ago on the North County Planning Forum, and spoke about Western Development and what we wanted to see there. I believe, and I think it's going to be discussed at Monday's intergovernmental meeting. I've had discussions with staff, not this Monday, next Monday. May 12th.
On the 12th, yeah.
And it's on the agenda. I believe, okay, that all of the North County cities should come together, and I had this discussion with Commissioner Marcus, and it is going to be discussed there, and all the cities should hire a professional lobbyist, because the concern, that's part of it. The rest of it is what really scares me. I've heard that there's going to be other legislation up in Tallahassee, that they're going to do another ag reserve and so forth, and my problem with it is if we don't band together in all of North County cities, we won't have as big a voice. I mean, I know Jupiter will be there, I know Juneau, all of the cities have always stuck together and they'll be there. That's really what needs to happen, and this is going to be discussed, and so I think what you said about staff next meeting, I think it's perfect timing, because hopefully we'll come back and we'll have we could talk about, whether we are going to do it together, whether we are going to hire lobbyists. Like I say, I want to thank staff, because I've been talking to the city manager about this, and the mayor goes up to all of these meetings, and that's really what needs to happen with this.
Well, Joe, are we gonna hire a lobbyist?
No,
Or the whole?
all of North, we already have a lobbyist.
Yes, we do.
Okay, and what I'd like to see is the North County together. Okay, that's what I'd like. That's only me. I don't know but as long as we can get all of the North County cities together and then decide, no different than we all came together to get scripts here and we all met and we all did certain things, that's what needs to happen now. This thing is, we got more trains on the tracks here than we know what to do with.
And all aboard
I mean,
Florida.
this will change. I mean, I don't know how they're going to ever, North Lake Boulevard, you can't move on it now. I mean, I don't understand how in the world they're going to put all this western development. I got a call from yesterday from someone, okay, that wanted to talk about Avenir, and I said, you know what? I said, I don't talk about Avenir because I happen to believe that it is going to wind up in litigation, so the less I talk about, the less I'll be deposed about. And I said to them, I said, but you know what? You want to talk about Avenir. At some point, somebody needs to talk about everything going on out there, and where's the infrastructure going to come from to move the people? I mean, we don't have the roads in the city. They could talk about West Boca. West Boca at least had infrastructure. We don't have it. You can't put another road between PGA Boulevard and North Lake Boulevard.
There's no land left.
And PGA can't go
widen
through,
it either.
with all the environmental issues.
You can't jump the water catchment there, you can't cut it.
North County, let me tell you something, we can't control what goes on in Palm Beach County, but we need to get our county commissioner, our district commissioner, and all of the North County cities together and take a position and go get it done. Because if not, it's all going to happen out there.
We can't control it, but we certainly can influence it. And I think you're right about getting a consortium of all the northern Palm Beach County cities together and sharing a lobbyist or however we do it. I don't know.
And we've been monitoring, staff's been monitoring, because I had heard that it was going to be put on this legislative session. And so for the last 6-7 weeks, we've been monitoring this, because if it did, we were going to get immediately together on this, because this needs to be, we need to pay attention to
You're talking about the agricultural enclave legislation, right?
We were watching it because we were afraid. We had heard rumors, or I had heard rumors, that this was going to come forward this session.
Absolutely.
But our lobbyist, Matt Forrest, has been monitoring it and constantly telling our city manager it's not on. But if our city, because this meeting on Monday the 12th is the perfect time to talk about it. But if in fact that would have happened first, we would have had to jump into
Actually,
action.
but for clarification, are you saying that we should all attend the meeting on the 12th? Because I saw an invite through email.
Well, we all can, but
So I guess
our
that
mayor
was-
will be there. Right?
I'll be there, but I think it's an open meeting if you want to come. I know David used to go before, and then now I've been attending.
But
And
you
I
should
know Dawn's coming with me to talk about a couple things as well in our city. But there are, you can come. The vice mayor comes sometimes of the other cities as well. So.
Right, and I guess
It's
my question
advertised,
is it advertised, and is this going to be within the Sunshine Law?
No.
Then you can't speak, the mayor can speak.
No, you can't. We can't speak, but the mayor can speak for us.
Right.
Mr. Attorney?
It's-
Mr. Five-year attorney?
While it's advertised, it's not advertised as a meeting of this council. So you could go, but you still would be precluded from exchanging ideas amongst each other.
We can just talk
Simply you
directly to
Right, that's what I mean.
the
when you
person
can't-
that is...
You can't, exactly. The two of you can't share comments or comment on the mayor's
I
comments.
just don't want anything to get, yeah.
It's more or less
Mayor
presentations
can
from the
handle
different cities, right? And they'll have representatives with them as well. But
And Bert always
you're-
reports
you've
back.
also got to incorporate Santa Maria's district into this too, if you're going to have some sort of larger consortium, because I'm sure they're not all crazy out there either.
Well, Royal Palm, when Callery Judge came up, Royal Palm and West Palm Beach
The
were also
acreage.
part of the groups that spoke against the original Calorie Judge
The
plan.
acreage is dead set against it, at the Minto project.
But we should
The
start
Minto
with-
project, you should know, is coming up for a vote this summer.
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
I guess
but
the question is, can we just put it on our bulletin board so we can attend and voice our opinions and everybody is...
All that's going to happen at that meeting is the mayor's going to talk about how we should all get together, and our council has voiced how we're very concerned about it, and we should all get together, maybe together hire lobbyists or whatever. Are you all interested in attending a meeting? And then,
Okay,
and then we're going to have one representative, and we're not all going to be able to go to those meetings, but as long as we have the mayor at these meetings, we're fine. We're being covered. We don't all have to go to a meeting to say the same thing.
No, I understand, but when
But
it comes to planning things, that's my
I'm just trying to play
background, so-
devil's advocate, because none of those other cities technically are affected except for a traffic standpoint. We're the one who has a project within our city limits. You start talking legal costs and consortiums and money, everybody kind of goes back in their shell,
Every
so...
North County city
Okay.
is affected.
Well, I'll certainly
Pretty sure,
broach the
Jupiter,
topic.
You need, maybe talk to Commissioner Marcus. She's been involved, she's been talking to people, I mean, I'm sure that everybody's going to get on board to this.
Okay.
I shouldn't say on board, but
Well, it also sets a precedent for the rest of, there's still a lot of agricultural land to the west of this that we also have to consider and take into account. Look at what's happened to Broward County. You know what stopped Broward County from moving west is the Everglades National Park. They are built right up to Everglades National Park. And if you go to and I was just over on the west coast of Florida, they're doing the same thing. They're going east to Everglades National Park. To me, that's what creates urban sprawl. That's what's created the traffic problems that both Broward and Dade County have today, is they just keep going west and they keep going west, and subdivision after subdivision after subdivision, to the point where, where all those people going? They're all going to downtown Fort Lauderdale, so that's why on Broward Boulevard you can't move. And Okeechobee's gotten that way.
Yeah.
So I think this is a
that
concern.
what is it, 5 whatever? that-
575.
575.
595.
That's what we're going to have to get over North Lake Boulevard.
Yeah.
595.
595. Or,
595.
US 19 through Pinellas County is now, like Southern Boulevard, we'll have to do that to North Lake with urban interchanges at every interchange. I don't know, somebody was talking about the small town flavor. There that goes. Then we're,
Forget it.
sure. Then we're St. Pete. I don't think we want to be St. Pete.
Okay, so
Sorry, St. Pete.
I'll bring those recommendations to the meeting. Okay. Anything else, David?
No, I'm done.
Okay, thanks. Marcy, you're on.
Brought us the good news, right, Dave?
Okay. Well, as we all know, education is a key component in economic development, and we actually just heard about this from Kelly Smallridge at a recent event that we had not too long ago at Frenchman's Correct. Students, as we know, and we just heard, spend 3 years in college, and then they intern their last year. That's actually what Justin, my stepson, is doing right now this summer, is interning. Some students spend their years in college only to find out that their career choice, like Mr. Murgio had mentioned, is not exactly what they intended. That actually happened to my assistant, who I love, and I'm happy in one respect that she went that I'm glad she went to school, of course, but she went to into a medical program, decided the medical field is absolutely not what I want, similar to the story you had, and now she loves being in an office setting. Now, with all that said, I would like to create an education economic development initiative whereby we provide local businesses with incentives if they provide our students with job shadowing opportunities. This way, students of Palm Beach Gardens High School, Dwyer, our state college, maybe Nova University, can have their students shadow someone in the career of their choice in the beginning of their college career or at the end of their high school career before they actually enter college. I would like this to apply to all students, not just magnet students. We have so many students that are in wonderful magnet programs, and they do get a little snippet of a career that they possibly can take. But there are many, many students that are not in magnet programs, and this opportunity would be wonderful for them. I would like the schools to allow this to count towards community service. I know that there was a legislation that I don't think passed yet. I think Patrick Rooney was telling me about it. I think he's the one that sponsored it, actually. And he wanted to get other opportunities for community service. So this could be a possibility. There are many forms of incentives. I know we have an economic development ordinance that we have. It's one of the tools in our economic development toolbox. This could be another way to market our city, but another way for economic development. We do have some funds, but that's not the only thing that we can use. Now, this is just the beginning. This is a thought that I would like to explore. I had mentioned that I spoke with the chamber. I spoke with the BDB, business partners. I spoke with the city manager in part, and now I'm asking for your blessing as a council to explore this opportunity and to work with all of these people, work with the principals, work with the chamber, who's very excited about this. Kelly Smallridge is ready. She had come up with many ideas for incentives, like incentives that have to do with marketing, with signage, with awards. The chamber does awards, and this could be one of the ways that a business can get an award and have all the recognition through the chamber, through the business development, through other entities for incentives. And I would like to come up with a objective and an ordinance that we could use in our economic development toolbox. And with your blessing, I'd like to work with staff, with the city manager, and all of the other community leaders to make this come into fruition.
Well, I think it's really a great idea. My concern is staff don't have the time. They can barely get done what they get done now, and this looks like a massive undertaking. I think it would be a good idea for you to take the lead on it, meet with the chamber, and do similar to what, as you well know, we have an economic development advisory group, which and you come to those meetings. We used to do a lot of that in-house, and we gave it over to chamber, and they put it together and so forth. I think that's the way to do it. Form it through the chamber, and then you can start partnering with other cities so that they do the same thing. You know what I mean? Because again, Dwyer's has both Jupiter and Palm Beach Gardens students, and Palm Beach State College, all the kids come in, and somehow you can come up with something together. I think it's a great initiative, but you should try and get it done. Take the leadership. The chamber's interested in doing it, and doing it that way. That's how I think it should be done.
Well, actually, I'm working with, and I actually have a meeting set up with the provost of the State College, who said she would help me draft something. And the chamber, of course, the Economic Development Advisory Board is meeting next week, I believe, next Thursday, and I was going to bring this up because we have to come up with ideas.
I don't know if you're going to be able to bring that up.
It's at the end, but I had...
They have such an agenda
it's a big agenda.
I don't know. It's a joint meeting. I don't even know how this ever got started. This is the second meeting in a row we're having here.
No negatives. There's positive. I think we can do it. And I think that,
I'm just saying, you want input. I'm going to give you the input.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Then on the other side of it, and give incentives. What can you give incentives?
Well, that's working with
I
the
just
chamber,
don't. I don't know what that is. Let me just say this to you. I think if you put together the right program, that's enough to sell it to the businesses.
Absolutely.
I think the business. Unfortunately, we have a lack of economic businesses that really. I mean, that's the biggest problem we have, is that we don't have a tremendous amount of business. But what we do have, I think they would put, like if you went to a Tire Kingdom, was it TBC? And if you went to, some of the biotech-related companies, I think they would provide something. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know that they would, because what are you going to give them? It's not like when you give somebody $50,000 to move here. I mean, what are you going to give them to be doing that? That should be their thing, and I think that they would. If you put it the right way, okay, they would do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know what we could give them, because we don't have anything to give them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There are many different forms of incentives, and like I said, awards, and working with the chamber, working with FPL, working with the business leaders, we can come up with incentives that go beyond dollars. And whether it's matching funds, whether it's working with the county, this is just an idea that I would like to move forward with.
I think you should do it.
And I think it's a great idea that we need to...
I know if we give direction to staff to do it, the city manager is going to tell us how many people we're going to need, and that's going to be a problem. So rather than do that,
I'm very willing to work with the many entities that we have in the city and the community leaders, the businesses, and work this to where
Great.
we can draft something that would be, but I will obviously need staff's help to make this an ordinance eventually.
Eventually.
Absolutely. And that's where I'm working, is to make this, to work forward. Now, obviously, I want to bounce ideas off of our staff to make sure that this is going in a legal way, that makes sure that we can do this in a way that's, can work with the city, because obviously there are rules that we need to abide by, so.
Yeah, you know, what my thoughts are is that this should really be a lead by those entities that you talked about. This isn't really, you know, this isn't a city. The city should not be taking the lead on this. But the school board, especially, I know Larry, and I've met the young lady who's the principal. I can't remember her name. Glenda, yes, I met her. These are very competent people. They know the needs of the city, their students better. The business community knows the needs of the business community better than we do. I think you should be the facilitator and get these entities together into the same room so that they can discuss what those needs are. But they need to let us know what it is that they want from the City of Palm Beach Gardens, because this isn't really our area of expertise. And I've always said, when I was one of my campaign promises when I first run, let the experts do that type of work. We have an expert right here in the room who was a principal, gosh, since before I was born. And so we have
one vote you just lost.
Thanks a lot, David. Stop talking.
I plan on running for county commissioner again. That's one less vote you got.
Well, fortunately, he lives in Bay Hill Estates. So. No, but we've got someone who's got some tremendous expertise in what schools needed. As a matter of fact, Mike, because I know his bio, he started a charter school, so he had to do a lot of these ideas and bring them through fruition. I know that Larry Clausen is very good, and Glenda is very good. I think you ought, and maybe you already have the meeting set up, meet with them, find out what it is that they need, how we can get the most students into the most businesses. Then we've got a wonderful chamber, and the PGA Corridor Association would help. And I would think the incentive for businesses, if I were a business owner, well, I am a business owner, the incentive is you may be looking at young talent that might be able to come back. And I remember it was just starting at Virginia Tech when I was in school, so this is an old program, so I'm sure they perfected it by now. They had a school internship program where you basically went to school for a semester, then you took 3 months off and you went to work for a company, so you got to learn that. Then you went back to school and back and forth and everything until you got your degree, and then you started working for this company. The student ended up graduating without humongous student loans because they were being paid. They get a job right away, and the business gets an employee who knows what they're doing, and they don't have to go through the training period.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's actually why I called Mike Murgia when I had the idea. And also, actually, this came up, not just my idea, this came up with at a breakfast with Gene Wibby. We were talking totally not about this, but it came up, one of those napkin things in a breakfast meeting, and we both said light bulb, and I said, what about if we started this? And she thought it was an excellent idea. That's why I called Mike and said, look, I'm not an educator, and I wanted to understand, work with you to draft something, because I think it's something that I think we as a city should be leaders in. Obviously, we're not educators, but leaders, and help bring the businesses and incentives, economic development. Like we said, education is the key component in economic development. And I think this can be a good marketing thing for our city. We are partnering with businesses and partnering with education. That's a great thing. And I think being the first city to do this, working with our schools and
let me summarize my thoughts, and then I know Joe wants to say.
Is a great idea.
Go through, work with these extremely qualified people. I'm trying to make up with Mike here.
Yeah.
We'll work out with these extremely, and then come back with the outline of what you want the ordinance to say.
Absolutely. And that's what that would be my goal.
My point is, like David said, is this shouldn't be us. We could be there to help, okay? But this isn't something we can do. You know what I'm saying? This is something the group.
I think it's something we can do. I do.
We can't do it, and we don't have, we're not equipped to do it. All of the people that you mentioned are equipped to do it, okay, and they could do it together.
And I think we can all do it together, and I want to start it.
That's fine. Go do it. We already told you to go do it. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But I'm just saying is that we can't
can't
be
do it
the lead-
alone.
We can't be the leader on it. You can, but the city can. You know what I'm saying? I mean, go meet with everybody and bring it
Absolutely.
back. Whatever we can do to help.
I think what you should do is meet with the business communities, the chamber, PGA Quarter, all those people. I think Mike Murgio's district is a pilot. So we look at District 1 at the cities within your district and those schools. Because if we restrict it just to Palm Beach Gardens, then we're only going to want the kids from those schools being associated with our business. And I think Joe's point is right. We can't do that. But I think if you pilot as a District 1 type thing, and then you can expand obviously throughout the county if this
Absolutely.
works. But using the chamber and other sources, our city could be the lead on it, figure out some ordinance that other cities can follow, and then we can work within the district together that if a kid going to a school in West Palm wants to work on PGA Boulevard for some business in that field, then we can do that. But as long as we're in that whole pilot district together, it's a lot easier, I think, for us to expand outside of our gardens footprint to help throughout your district to make this work. So I think that's how you should pursue it.
Absolutely.
And meet
I
with
want
all
it to
those, as
grow.
David said, the chamber, all those other people, get everybody involved and come back to us with what your ideas are. But incorporate Mike's whole district because obviously his name is going to be on this too as kind of the pilot leader, and we like to keep you involved as much as possible and move it forward. So I think we're good with that unless you have any comments? Okay. Knock yourself out. We look forward to reports. So,
Thank you.
and Mike, thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it. So, all right, any other items for council discussion? Nope. City attorney report, Max?
Just briefly, the city manager, the anniversary of the city manager's contract is in June, and every year the council is required in the contract to give a review of the city manager, and historically in the past, you've given him your review in private, and then you announced that you've done that in your June meeting. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Okay.
That it's coming up this month, and you need to be scheduling some time to speak to Mr. Ferris throughout the next month to give him his review.
Okay. All right, any questions on that? What we need to do?
No, but I do want to say that I think we need to put on the agenda to further your conversation that you had in the very beginning about our charter, because I don't want this to just be left for no one to talk about. I think that we heard what you said. I think we need to come up with a decision and move forward. And maybe we could think about it over the next month, and then all of us come up with a decision next month, if that's possible, and put it on the agenda.
Maybe we should put on the July agenda, because I understand June is pretty packed.
It's pretty packed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. But let's start thinking about it like,
On an agenda,
Yeah.
so we can make a decision and move forward.
you know, I like I mentioned last time, I still think we have a lot of time and we have to figure out when we want to do this. But I think starting the process now, figuring out a structure and some independent moderator and stuff like that, I think it's a good idea.
What I've learned
As
in time,
apolitical as possible.
And it's a lot more than term limits. There's a lot of
Oh,
other
yeah.
things
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
time goes by fast, so if we don't move on something, we can just spend 6 months not even discussing it.
Okay, agree. Let's all talk about that in July and come with some suggestions, and we'll talk about it then. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, got a lot of motions to adjourn.
Second.
Seconds, all in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Good night, everybody.